Welcome to another podcast from the Loft at the Great Falls Youth Center in Patterson. This past year, we've been fortunate to have guests who highlight important functions of state government. We've heard from officials within the state's Department of Community Affairs on topics such as eviction prevention and ending veterans' homelessness, to the president of the state's Board of Public Utilities to learn about utility assistance programs. Just a few weeks ago, we had a great conversation with the state's director of the Division of Fire Safety. We've been able to host these podcasts because of our friend, Kaya King, Chief of Staff to the Commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs, who understands the importance of informing the public about programs that benefit them. And Kaya, I'm so pleased that you're here with us once again today. And I'm very pleased that today we are joined by Commissioner Robert Asaro-Angelo, who leads the state's Department of Labor and Workforce Development as a member of Governor Phil Murphy's cabinet. We'll look forward to discussing everything from apprenticeships and internships to encouraging careers in the public sector. So welcome, Commissioner. And now I'd like to turn things over to Kaya.
Thank you so much, Bob. Happy summer to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's great to get together, and I think we're in top of July weather. And what's exciting about this, I've been wanting to get the commissioner on for a little bit. I'm a former DOL employee, and so I've been a fan for a couple years of his leadership and what the commissioner and I think your entire team have done to really put the state's diverse services, right, for New Jersey workers at the forefront. And really what I've truly loved about your work and seeing your background in comms is that you all have been getting the word out. I mean, I feel like I am seeing DOL on social media. You all are in kind of front and center, I think, even in just some of the workforce enhancements that have happened for the administration. And you're such a vocal advocate. So it's a privilege to have you here. Just a little bit of background. I know that Bob had mentioned, you've been commissioner for the Department of Labor and Workforce Development. That was a position you had received in January 2018. So you've been in trenches for a while, Commissioner.
That's correct.
Which is no small feat, right? I wanted to note too, you've got a pretty storied background. From 2010 to 2017, you had served as the Eastern Regional Representative for the U.S. Department of Labor under the Obama administration, and you managed the regional activities and coordinating for all of the federal initiatives on the regional, state, and local levels, right? So this labor work isn't just true blue to Jersey. I mean, you've really seen the national temperature and landscape, which really has made you an asset for the state. I did want to note too, you've had some prior work prior to government service, and I always like to acknowledge that with some of our guests, right? We've got people with such diverse backgrounds that end up in public service, right, or build it as they go along. So you had worked for the Laborers International Union, the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, and the Service Employees International Union Local 1115. I think, is that 115?
It's 1115, and now it's part of 1199. They merged since then. That's how old I am.
The changes. But those are important areas, right? Because that required you to organize, engage public employees, construction workers, nursing home employees around government politics and really some critical policy. I want to just also give a shout out. You are a proud Boston University graduate, Bachelor of Science in Communications, and also a proud Rutgers University graduate, Eagleton Fellow, which all our commissioner is also an Eagleton Fellow. So go Rutgers University, go RU.
Okay.
So I wanted to kick it off first, Commissioner. I think with hearing a little bit about the why behind this incredible career choice, what made you draw to not just public sector, but labor work and workforce development?
First of all, thanks for having me, Bob and Kaya. I'm so thrilled to be in Patterson. My grandmother's from Lodi, right down the river, essentially. Awesome. And I grew up having great memories here in Passaic County and Patterson specifically. And my wife worked for the late great Congressman Bill Pasquarello.
And I didn't know that. Wow.
I love. I'm happily part of the Pasquarello Silky family. So anytime I get to come to Patterson, I'm happy to be here. Listen, you mentioned my biography a little bit. I grew up in a family of public servants. My parents both worked for Middlesex County at some point. My dad was an organizer there as well. My aunts and uncles worked for Rutgers, or my grandfather was a postman, letter carrier. I just was never, my grandfather ran on the other, my dad's side ran community chess, like on the Monopoly board in Atlantic City, which was the United Way. Yes. So I don't really think I had any other path forward. Right. Although I did work for ESPN and NBC Sports for a while doing sports broadcasting, which is fantastic as a young guy doing that kind of stuff was really exciting and exhilarating. But at the end of the day, I was helping to make money for a bunch of shareholders. And I saw that they didn't really treat the workers very well. I was there for 7 years making the same salary, which was, as a college kid, was a lot, but a few years later, it wasn't that much. I sort of saw like firsthand, even jobs that are seen as sort of higher up, we weren't really getting respect on the job. Certainly was not family sustaining wages by any means. I was home in New Jersey between gigs, as they would say. And I got involved in the McGreevey for Governor campaign. So this is 1997, we're talking. And I just love the exhilaration of the campaign. I love the crazy hours. I love the grunt work, making copies, going to campaign events, and quite frankly, meeting hundreds of people across the state who are putting their name on the ballot. Not to win an election, but to win the election and hopefully have some kind of policy proposal to move forward. And I saw the work and dedication that went in by these folks. I just really felt like, one, yes, the excitement of the campaign, but two, what the end result was going to be. And I was just really inspired by hundreds, if not thousands of folks that year running for office and putting themselves in line to help others. And I'm talking about council seats. I was in charge of like doing joint literature for these local races. It's just seeing that kind of passion about helping others really impressed me. My mom was a council president in East Brunswick, where I grew up. I saw the change that you can have even as a council person, which just really excited me. So I went and I also felt like I had to get a degree. Something that's more appropriate than broadcasting. That's why I went. You mentioned records, that's why I went there. I just sort of I fell in love with that kind of stuff. I worked for the SEIU, which was Nursing Home Workers Union, across South Jersey, and seeing these mostly women of color, working their tails off every single day, helping others, really helping their patients for disgustingly low wages and very little respect. And it really just bothered me more than anything else. And I went from there to work for a couple of unions you mentioned. I just loved being there, helping other workers sort of have a voice in the workplace, have a voice in government. But then also seeing from the outside that you can only do so much. So when I had a chance to work for the U.S. Department of Labor in the Obama administration, I really felt that that's sort of like the end point. One, for my campaign life, you want to win elections to work in government, and two, like being an outside advocate, seeing the changes that could be made from within government are way more impactful than you can make as an advocate. So I jumped at the chance, and having that federal level view before I took this job, because the federal Department of Labor is very similar to the state departments of labor, same kind of remit as far as worker safety, workers' wages, workers' compensation, benefit programs. But when I was at the federal level, like very often we had to just my job was sort of beg state labor commissioners to do something for us or to please do this policy. So being able to have that job where we're way closer to the workers that we care about, way closer to the communities, with way, quite frankly, especially in New Jersey, where we have a very powerful governorship, which then by default makes them a very powerful commissioner as far as our statutory authority, as opposed to some other states. That was very exhilarating to me, quite frankly. And I think that we've just, I'm 6 months left, and I still feel like we have way more to do. But I'm super thrilled working with my other fellow commissioners about what we've done throughout the Murphy administration to make real impacts on people's lives in New Jersey.
I really love, I think, hearing, as part of your experience that you saw what it was like to be an advocate on the outside. And I think what folks, sometimes underestimate about public service is you really get to do some impactful work, and faster than I think you are kind of outside looking in. You can know the field, but the decision making is within government.
Absolutely. And I think not only do I have the experience from the advocacy side, I think we've done a really good job of trying across the administration of involving advocates in our work, having real-time human feedback about what we're doing, and being able to change on the fly. It's something that I think is unique to this administration, quite frankly. All major kudos to my boss. The governor's been a very, in some ways, hands off. It may sound like a negative thing, but more like he trusts us. Mm-hmm. He knows that we're closer to the work. And I think that's across the board in these agencies, where in the past, this is not a political statement, Democrat and Republican, so much you had to get, if you want to talk to another commissioner, you got to get approval. If you want to, go somewhere, you got to get approval. Mm-hmm. It's just, we're trusted to do the jobs that we've been confirmed by the Senate to do, and I think that's really led to great results for the people across the state and a more responsive government.
I agree.
Oh, that's great, Commissioner. How is the department's approach to workforce development evolving to align with today's economy and tomorrow's jobs?
It's something we've been focused on since day one, whether it be the Future of Work Task Force that the administration had, or just the great expansion of our work. One of my biggest focuses, I'll back up for a second. One of the reasons I had this job is because of apprenticeship. When I worked at the laborers union, I was very involved in apprenticeship. The governor was ambassador to Germany, which was like the gold standard for apprenticeship worldwide. So during my interview, we sort of just geeked out on apprenticeship. And so talking about that's really the gold standard for workforce development, mainly because it's not a training and then you go get a job. You're getting paid day one as an apprentice and learning on the job. One of the things I learned, and this is something that was also focused the Obama administration when I worked there, but as I said, it was sort of further from the end result. So we did a lot of work to expand our apprenticeship programs, to expand funding for apprenticeship. In the end, apprenticeships ROI shouldn't need state funding. We know when you're trying to start a program, it's good to seed the field a little bit. One of my other focuses wasn't just about having a program; it was about having a more diverse set of folks at the table. I don't mean the diversity of folks being served, but also the diversity of folks applying for the grants. Something I called the workforce development complex, industrial complex. It was always the same people, and nothing wrong with them coming, but it was always the same group, a small group of folks who were coming to apply for grants to the department. I made a big effort to expand that pool. Our first apprenticeship grant in this administration, we had to have 3 different technical assistance seminars. Usually they had one with 10 people there. We had overflow crowds, just because we put the word out there that we want new folks working with us. New Jersey, while it's small, there's so many different separate communities. Like great one here in Patterson, but there's so many great downtowns across the state where people who need to be served. But you saw that they didn't always have that, the NGO capacity. So we really tried to build them up. And so in our funding, we're very intentional about providing funding, not just for the participant, but also for overhead and administrative costs for our grantees to get these programs up and running. But the other important part was focusing on employers. Even though we're the Department for Workers, and we'll always fight for workers, you can't be a worker without an employer. And so I think that we've been very even-handed in our approach to that, but also trying to get employers to realize that your employees are your best resource. And I think we saw that even before COVID, there was a labor crunch in the state, and certainly after COVID, with some a real bellwether for worker rights and worker empowerment, quite frankly, when it comes to wages and benefits. But also just realizing the employers need to take some time for that investment. And we're not going to see the days anymore of lines around the corner for every job opening.
I had always associated apprenticeships with construction, but in theory, it's much broader than that, isn't it?
Yeah, we only about 10% of our funding has gone to construction unions, but they're the gold standard model. And when I talked about employers, this is why. Because when I was at the laborers union, we had 10,000 signatory contractors who were all fighting each other every day and night to win a bid, to get that big job instead of their competitor. But they were all paying in every single hour to an apprenticeship program that was training usually their competitors' workers, quite frankly. Wow. That's something that I've been trying to replicate in other industries. It's been very difficult, to be honest. It's hard to get other industries to sort of see it like that. We do have some apprenticeship grantees like NJ Car, who has multiple employers who are part of it, who are helping to support, auto mechanics. But it's very difficult. I think that's why the building trades model is so successful, is because of what I just talked about. They have competitors working together on developing a talent pool. It's something we're trying to incentivize in the state, not just through our funding, but also on the other side of things that Kai knows well, the DCA, that all public works contracts in the state now have to go to a contractor who's using and paying into a U.S. Department of Labor approved apprenticeship program, because we're going to be putting public dollars into any kind of project. How much of that employer is also seeing the field and investing back into the workforce.
Makes sense.
What I think is so valuable about that as well is, there's a combination of, you all are trying to, as we talked about the theme of accessibility, right? Meeting some of these grantees where they are and recognizing, this state is such a potpourri of different types of communities and trades and organizations. And going to that point about the construction industry and that standard, that created a healthy ecosystem, right? And I think in a way, when we're looking wherever the pulse point goes, even with our economy, we've got to stop being in competition with each other.
Exactly right. And it raised the level of the folks bidding for our contracts, right? So hopefully it's also going to lead to jobs completed quicker, better quality jobs, but it's certainly creating a better work environment for folks who are are supporting their families on public dollars.
So, I think what I was so excited about this episode as well is that this is going to give folks, I think, a bit of a pulse point. People may not understand, I think, the labor market, some of those intersectionalities and some of the factors, right, that work into where different trades, different organizations really kind of fall into play. Where are you seeing their industries with some of the greatest growth potential, right? And how is the state and really your department ensuring that those programs are accessible, that folks are knowing, hey, this is hot and trending. This is an area where you can really make a professional trajectory or, a career path in.
Yeah. I mean, the whole time we've been here, the biggest growth has still been in healthcare. We're a healthcare state. Human beings aren't getting any younger. We're going to continue to get older and live longer, which is fantastic. That's usually because of great healthcare, and also New Jersey, obviously, pharmaceutical industry is huge here.
Right.
Bioscience is a big one. So healthcare has been our biggest source of successful apprenticeships as well. I think we've put a couple thousand now through the Rutgers Nursing Apprenticeship Program, which has helped us double the number of women in apprenticeships in New Jersey. Construction is still growing, but also we're trying to make sure that we're involved in new industries as well, whether it be technology and coding behind the scenes for sports gambling, whether it be we have apprenticeships now in for the cannabis industry. We have apprenticeships in cold plasma at the Princeton Plasma Physics Lab.
Wow.
Like you said before, really make sure that apprenticeship is for any industry. It's not just about construction. If you have an employer who's willing to make that investment in a worker, we want to make sure that new and burgeoning industries are there. I presume sometime in the near future you'll see an AI apprenticeship program of some sort. The state is all in on AI, mainly to make sure that we're there, that we're at the table with AI. And I think there is great potential for growth, especially when it comes to government services on that front, to make us more responsive and reactive, and help our own staff be able to have more face time with humans while AI does some of the work that bogs us down a little bit. But I think we're seeing, all kinds of growth in various industries. And I know the governor's very proud to have homegrown growth in homegrown industries. Working closely with our partners at the Economic Development Authority, which I'm on the board of. We have the strongest protections for workers and economic incentives of any state, bar none. Every EDA project has the same requirements when it comes to apprenticeship. Nobody can get EDA money if they haven't passed our check, as far as make sure they pay their workers the right way and making sure they don't owe the unemployment fund. So everything we do in this administration, as you know well, is a whole of government approach. There aren't many initiatives that I undertake that I'm not thinking about. How can DCA be involved? How can DOH be involved? How can transportation be involved in this? I know we're stronger when we work together to make sure that we're impacting that growth. Food service is always as big in New Jersey. Food manufacturing, we have a couple of apprenticeship programs there as well. So I just think there's opportunities across the state in all these kind of growth industries.
And I want to put a brag out there, as you mentioned AI. I think your department was the first department to make sure every single staffer received the AI training that was put out by the Office of Innovation for the state. Is that correct?
That is correct. I was very proud of that.
I got to give a shout out.
I thought we had I was hoping to get like an 80% rate. We got literally to 100. I didn't believe them. Like how there's here's the number of employees we have. Here's the number who took the training. A small percentage of them failed the training, which is surprising, but that means they took it.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I was very happy about that. I think it was important to have them have a comfort level with how do we use it. I use it all the time at work, usually for stuff that I would just take me a bunch of time that I could be doing other things, putting notes together, consolidating things, taking comments on regulations and making it easier to read. So I think it's a real opportunity for our knowledge for our residents of our state, but also our state workers to be able to have more time to be responsive. And it is certainly a growth industry with the AI hub at Princeton. We're already seeing major investments. A company called CoreWeave is built as its headquarters here in New Jersey. I think that and also I just saw that Governor announced also that there's a group called Code for America, which is a national group of public sector technologists, so that we're one of the 3 states that have the best AI potential. So I thought it was really promising as well.
As someone who has just signed up for ChatGPT, I'm about a month in, I'm hooked.
Good, yeah.
And it's amazing. It's just amazing. And you can understand how it's a growth industry.
Yeah.
And I think also too, you all have to be a bit of the example, right? You're in the business of, human intelligence, right? Human capital and that type of talent pool. But I think especially in government, if we can kind of watch and see a department like DOL employ this, utilize it for human capital and currency, it'll get a little bit more contagious. We've got, some folks who are jumping all in our department and some who are healthily terrified, but the efficiency needs to be there, right? We've got to stretch time and money and taxpayer dollars, and that does allow us to work faster.
I guess. And also it's important that you mentioned leading by example. Like I was actually impressed. I think our folks did some survey a few months back that public sector employees were more excited about AI than the regular population. I think because so often public sector employees are almost sort of the victims of these processes that don't need to, that are just get monotonous and repetitive. So I think that we see ourselves, this is a way for us to get out from behind that kind of paperwork.
Yeah, have some real agency. And I think try to be ahead of the curve, right?
Yes.
The rumor is, government's always behind. And it's like, no, I think Jersey's gonna, be ahead of the curve on this. So I wanted to pivot a little bit towards internships. I love that you've given the foundation of apprenticeships being for all, right? In every industry, every sector, and really a way for the employer as well as the worker. Internships are also, I think, a really valuable bailiwick and really mission purposed element of the work of Department of Labor and Workforce Development. And I wanted to hear from you, where do you see internships playing in building the skilled workforce in New Jersey? And where are you and the team kind of leading the department in that direction so that there are quality internship opportunities and the word's out about them?
Yeah, I appreciate the question. I'm a huge fan of internships. Just like apprenticeship, it's work-based learning, right? Apprenticeship is the gold standard, but anything you're doing where you're working for a company or an entity that is some kind of in the field that you're looking to be into, having that real-world experience is just totally invaluable. I'm very proud that DOL, I think, has the gold standard internship program in the state, which I think was started when you were with us, Kaya, maybe a little bit before you got there.
Yes.
We have this year, I think we have 50, but we've had as high as 63 interns in our department alone. I just went to a little fair they did the other day where they were the ones like basically doing a tabling event internally to teach the other interns about what division they were working in, and seeing the career staff from DOL from each of the divisions, and the smiles on their face were just electric. And they're so proud to see these college kids in there showing off what they learned this summer already, what their ideas are for the department, and also they're ready to hire them right now. Like we've hired, I think, a third of our interns have come back to work for us full time or part time. I think that's sort of just the norm across the board, especially now as we get, and obviously we prefer all internships to be paid. Yes. There's some circumstances where they don't have to be, but usually they have to be paid. So it's obviously important for these young workers to get earnings also when they're putting this work in. So we also have a program with higher ed where we fund private sector entities also to help fund their internships as well. Because so often we hear employers like they want to just come to us and say, hey, give me some workers. You need to be part of that process as well. An internship is a big part of that. I think it's also works both ways as fruitful and productive it is for the intern. I think you really see the folks, whether it be at a government agency or a private company, the energy that they get from working with the interns, from teaching young workers about what they're doing and get up and coming as well. And all it isn't just for young folks either. You get folks who are reentering or else need to have some practice and you see if something works for them or not. So we're all in on internships. We work very closely on our one-stops across the state to help young workers get internships as well. And we're really pushing on local governments as well.
Commissioner, turning to the topic of public service careers, it's not necessarily the first career choice that young people think about. Is there anything that your department can do or perhaps is doing to encourage young people to enter the public service?
Yeah, well, other than the internship program I just mentioned, which is a big part of it, working closely with our partners in government about just putting out the word, leading by example, as Kaya said, about public service being for the public good. I think very often now you see young workers who are more concerned about, what their effect is on others, what their effect is in the community or the environment. I think that, I think we have very ambitious and committed young workers in New Jersey, and I think it's very important for us to, the public sector and anywhere else, make sure that their first experiences in work are positive ones. I think for far too often, people saw interns as gophers or copy people, right. Or so trying to make sure that the employers, including public employers, are giving them real projects or helping them learn along the way, learning from them. But I think public service, like I said before, obviously is a noble profession. I work closely with the Civil Service Commission when at the municipalities doing internship fairs there, and I'm always impressed. You think that government work has a bad rap, but when I meet with these students, whether it be at Rutgers or Kane or Stockton or anywhere else in the state, they're excited about public service, and they're excited. They want to make sure that there's an opportunity for them. I think sometimes it's their bureaucracy, or sometimes the trials of getting through the civil service program. I think it's a little intimidating sometimes. But the more we can do to make that easier for folks to get in, whether it be local or state level, I think is crucially important. And I'm thrilled that we're sort of we're still in the retirement boom as far as our population ages. So I think we're at a great time to be developing these programs to get young workers into government service because they're anxious, and that's the kind of energy we need in government as well.
Yeah, I agree. Commissioner, we're obviously having this conversation today in Paterson, and I want to talk about the concept of equitable access to internships, to apprenticeships, to all of the initiatives of the department. What can be done to ensure that those who are maybe traditionally shut out have a chance at internships, apprenticeships, and other opportunities?
I think you need to be very specific and proactive about it, right? We're a very diverse state. So in some ways it's easier in New Jersey than other places because that's one of I think it's our greatest strength as a state, is our diversity. And that's something it's all across the state. Like every part of the state is diverse, which is fantastic. We're very intentional about it. We have one program called NJ Build, which is basically we get funding from any state project that goes into the NJ Build program, which is specifically for providing opportunities for women and minorities, including veterans. In the last 7 years, we allocated about $20 million to NJ Build grants, helping more than 2,100 women and minority individuals get pre-apprenticeship and construction training. I'm very proud in our large apprenticeship program called PACE, 2/3 of the participants are minorities or women,
Wow.
which is just no other apprenticeship program has anything like that, because we make sure that we're scoring on that. What is the grant? What is the grant applicant? What are they going to do to make sure that who they're serving is a diverse community? So that's just something that's inherent, but it's something you need to be intentional about. But it's also about having the right partners at the table, like the story I told before, making sure that there's more people applying for these programs, applying for these grants. The word is getting out across the state to more, because I'm always concerned about who's not in the room.
Yeah.
Even when I'm at a large convening with dozens or hundreds of stakeholders, there's still some that aren't there.
Yep.
So we're always about getting the word out. We have a CARE grant program, which where we work specifically with community partners and non-governmental organizations about making sure people know about their rights on the job when it comes to wages or earned sick leave or family leave or unemployment. We've had great response in those kind of groups about applying for our grants as well. So it's sort of like a feeder program into some more high-end apprenticeship programs. So it's always just about getting out there all over the state. And I'm always pushing for more efforts that aren't easy to get to. Even though we're a small state in New Jersey, I think we're very local. Whereas I talk to my counterparts who have to, fly across the state or stay in a hotel to go to a meeting the next day.
Yeah.
When you're talking about some of these larger states, so we really have a good in New Jersey. I don't like when I hear people, whether it be from Newark, thinking that Atlantic City is too far away, or
No.
or people from Rowan complaining about having to go up to King. It's just we're very lucky in New Jersey how compact everything is, but we still have such a great diversity of programs and people across the state.
Great. Thank you.
And I feel like what I've been able to observe, and it's, I think, not just your department, but the entire administration, is I think that we're really getting better at marketing that this information's out there. So I have seen DOL on a lot of different types of social media forums. You all are very great about visuals, and it's coming from internal. I had the privilege to watch it as the build was going on, and it's something I have a pride point for, because I'm seeing the leadership at the department, right, really representing the communities that are being served, right? And it's trickling from that leadership point down through management to the one-stop centers. And then in this internship work, I mean, I don't know if there's a better endorsement than hearing you have not only made this a priority for the clients that you're serving, right, as the department, but internal, your interns are being retained.
Absolutely. I mean, we had 700 applicants this year. 700 applicants for internships at the Department of Labor, which is awesome. But I feel like we need to winnow it down. Like I only want juniors and seniors now, because I want them to come work for us right away.
Right.
And we've just been very lucky with that, and our staff loves that, because obviously you're onboarding them as an intern, which makes it easier to bring them onto a full-time job as well, because they're already employed. But it's just about getting the word out there and leading by example. And I'm thrilled that other departments have caught on as well. Right? Everyone sort of came to us like, hey, how do you do this? And with support from the front office and CSC by making this easier and helping see the field.
Yeah, I think the work that you had done has been healthily contagious, right? So I think from our end at DCA, because we handle local government services, like you had noted, you've got it's state level, county, local, and how are you really injecting? One of I think the many assets that your leadership in the department has brought is also the engagement, the stakeholder collaboration with the colleges and universities. I'm taking a bit of a lesson. So we're trying to see how are we really duplicating what I think DOL did across state level, county, and local. But I wanted to hear a bit from you, how have you all been able to successfully collaborate with the panoply of colleges and universities? And that's another brag about New Jersey, our diversity of college, state, local, county college level in terms of all the colleges across the state is pretty diverse, and we've got a lot of great talent. How have you all managed to really set those relationships foundationally and really continue the ecosystem that you've developed?
I talked before about the importance of employers in this relationship. And, when we're talking about work-based learning or apprenticeship, they also need help with the training, right? That folks already or classroom training. So I've really done our folks across the state done a really good job of connecting employers, whether it be with community colleges or the 4 years. Some of our best apprenticeship programs are coming from the colleges, whether it be the Rutgers Nursing Initiative, Rowan with our retail marijuana initiative, and just I think at this point, I'm going to guess there's probably about 18 or 19 different institutes of higher education who are part of an apprenticeship grant in some form or fashion, because I think it's very important that not only is it about getting a work or a job, it's about getting them, whether it be a credential, a degree, a certificate, that they have something that's portable for them. And obviously our community colleges, our 4-year schools are going to be very important to that, because I think any investment that's going into a worker shouldn't just be an investment that benefits that employer. It should also be benefiting that employee. So all the colleges are very important to make sure they have those credentials that are transferable anywhere else they go. That's why also I love apprenticeship, because any apprenticeship, U.S. Department of Labor apprenticeship, when you get that apprenticeship certificate, you take that to any apprenticeship or any employer across the country, and that has the same weight here as it does in California, Texas, or anywhere else. So it's really important that we're, I see this as an employer myself, right? I'm an employer of 3,000 workers at the department. And very often, fantastic employees leave your department, which is always sad, but also at the same time you're happy, because I'm thrilled that our employees are getting some kind of value out of their time with us, that they're moving themselves up the ladder, so to speak, to go to another department. We've doubled our college, our tuition reimbursement in our department, to make sure to make getting those credentials more attainable for our staff as well. It's also obviously great in recruitment, but I think our colleges across the board have been very innovative. We have great partnerships with all of our community colleges. My predecessor in this job, Aaron Fichtner, is the head of the New Jersey Council on Community Colleges. So that's sort of he knows what we have and we know what they have. And it's very difficult in New Jersey, quite frankly, because for good or for bad, they're all sovereign nations.
Right.
Every community college has its own board, is governed by its own county, or whereas in other states, they're all part of one system, one head. So it's not like we can just say, "Hey, do this" as a state. We need to bring them on board and bring them along. And by the way, we're here in Passaic County. I mean, Passaic is always a leader on this front on workforce development all the time. Even my time at U.S. Department of Labor, my first time visiting the state with the deputy secretary was to go to Passaic County Community College to talk about some of their programs there. Wow. So also just like in our state departments, we're a little competitive, but I think in a healthy way, because we want our counterparts to do as good as we're doing something, or we want to learn from them and do as good as they're doing in the other thing. I think the county colleges feel the same, like, oh, they're doing that in Passaic, I want to do that here in Cumberland as well. So I think it's about. Well,
we don't mind leading the pack, and Dr. Steve Rose, who's the president, the longtime president of Passaic County Community College, is just an exceptional leader.
He might be is he the longest server in New Jersey?
I think so. He's been there about almost 35 years, I think. Wow. So it's just incredible. But turning back to the topic of public service careers, if the objective is to get young people to consider it as a career path, once they are there, what can we do to keep them there? I heard you mention tuition reimbursement as an example. Is that something, and what other strategies are there?
Well, that's certainly part of it. I think it's also making, like I said, just showing that we're invested in them as an individual, that their work and value isn't just to benefit the department. We want to benefit them as well. So I think it's about, one, having a career path, not just about reimbursement, but making sure, and that's one of the good things about civil service, is that that you have a path in front of you. Which also it sort of ties back to apprenticeship a little bit. Like apprenticeship, one of the keys of that is that you start year one with a certain salary. Next year you have a progressive wage growth along the way as you're getting higher. And luckily in public service, for the most part, most workers are under collective bargaining agreements. They're going to have an increase every year. I give real kudos to the Murphy administration for being, quite frankly, bold about how we're treating our state workers with not just the bargaining, the increases in the collective bargaining agreements with CWA and other unions, but also even for the managerial staff. We had a real problem when we came in where our folks in the bargaining unit were making more than managers.
Oh, wow.
So who's going to ever apply for a management position? So I give kudos to the Murphy administration across the board for making sure that there isn't that compression, that salaries of managers are higher than the ones that they're overseeing. And that sort of helps that churn, right? That's so even though it's leading the folks leading their position, you want to have the upper mobility within the department. And I think, quite frankly, a lot of times the private sector, except for the bigger corporations, you might not see that as ingrained as it is in public service. Also, I think your skills here are highly transferable. Across government agencies, but from state to county to local to federal, but also from public sector to private sector. I mean, I tell any employer, if somebody who worked in government during COVID applies for a job with you, hire them. Right. Because no one's in the private sector has to deal with what we had to deal with during that time. But just in general, government is there for folks at their worst time sometimes. We're there when folks need the most help, whether it be state during COVID, whether it be FEMA during Sandy, knowing that they have that kind of ability to turn on the dime and focus on a project, I think helps a lot. But also, you mentioned tuition reimbursement is a big one. We have good benefits in the state. There's no doubt about that. There's a lot of angst about our work from home, our telework policy. If we didn't have that, we would have our employees would leave us. That's just the norm now. But I think that's some of the things. And trying to be flexible with employees generally, and trying to, and while we have we have strictures about what the job entails in civil service, trying to have them work more with other divisions and departments, not having everybody be so siloed, letting folks get out of the buildings and out to where their programs are that they're assisting. We're very blessed at the Department of Labor. We have about 50 offices across the state between one-stops and call centers and our workers' comp judiciary, letting our staff move around a little bit and seeing where we can have an effect on the real people we're affecting, I think is also helpful.
That's great.
And you had made a couple really important points, and even when I look at your career, Commissioner, and others, within this administration, fair amount of folks with that background in public service, and you really cut your teeth. I mean, what you're talking about is building metal, building resilience. Yeah. And I think that this generation, hearkening back to, a comment you made earlier, I think they're looking to have an impact. And I think they're looking to jump in deep end, learn things, and really move and grow. And from my vantage and even my professional experience, I was able to probably have a faster trajectory going public sector than I would have private. Right. There isn't the same baptism by fire, I think, that happens.
For sure.
So I wanted to hear a bit too, there's been so much success with what your department has done in this administration, in really making sure that we've got some successes for our residents, right? That folks are not just finding their career path, but also landing it and retaining it. And I wanted to know, could you share a little bit of a success story that you were able to either witness directly or a lived experience you've heard where someone was able to really transform their path, right, through an internship and apprenticeship through the work of the department?
Yeah, I have some specific examples for it, but just also broadly, we've seen great economic growth during this administration through some very difficult times. We have more employees in the state now than ever before, more employers ever in the state, business growth by about 20% during the Murphy administration. And importantly, small businesses, those with 5 employees or less, like many of the ones here in Patterson, they've had a 30% growth in our time in the Murphy administration. And I say that not just to extol our successes, but also make the point that from day one, whether it be a minimum wage increase, whether it be about earned sick leave, expansion of paid leave, equal pay, temporary workers' bill of rights, I can go on and on about worker-friendly legislation that's passed in a very bipartisan manner. But every single time you hear the employer groups say, oh, we're going to go out of business. Businesses are going to leave the state. You're going to put mom and pops, make them bankrupt. We've seen that every time you empower workers with all these benefits and protections, business grows. because especially when it comes to small businesses, it's hard for them to compete with the pharmaceutical companies. But when you can offer your employee paid leave like every other employer does, you're on a level playing field. You can offer a step minimum wage at the lower end. You're on a level playing field. So I really believe that all these protections that we have for workers on a broad scale are some of the biggest successes we've had.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. But as far as individual stories, I mean, every apprenticeship program I go to, there's always a great story there. And I work for the labor's union. Laborers are sort of the, I'll be frank, are like low man on the totem pole on a construction site. So I love working there because a lot of folks who are coming back from the justice system, a lot of reentry there, not as any kind of formal program by any means, just because that's where they came, right? That's where they went, they shaped up, they found, and we saw somebody who was working hard. So I've always loved the redemption you can get working in construction, working in that kind of collaborative atmosphere. It's almost like a team sport, being out there. So that's why some of our best successes come from apprenticeship in construction. So I'll give the initials. They want to have their full name used. As a Navy veteran who wanted to become an electrician after her service, she's working in retail and restaurants, really low wage jobs, inconsistent. She joined our Helmets to Hard Hats program, which we funded at NJ Build, which helped develop her career readiness and soft skills, preparing her for the trade union's recruitment processes, which is difficult. She applied to IBW, was accepted into their apprenticeship program in July 22. Now she's working full-time with a reputable electrical contractor, gaining valuable experience on job sites, and probably on her way to a six-figure salary.
Wow.
With amazing protections and benefits. In the healthcare sector, which I mentioned before, has been one of our biggest ones. I met Martha Jackson, who retired early from Blue. So it's, by the way, all these programs aren't just for young people. A lot of the programs, I remember I was at one apprenticeship graduation ceremony. A husband and wife who were married for 15 years at that point, who were graduating an apprenticeship program for a manufacturing company at the same time.
Wow.
But Martha, she retired early from Blue Cross Blue Shield, but wanted to keep making a difference. She started working in home care. Baron Queen was one of our grantees, one of our PACE grants. She earned her certified home health aide certification, allowed her to take on more meaningful roles. She then enrolled in a GAINS, with other programs, funded training for dementia care, and CPR is one of the first dementia care apprenticeship programs in the country right here in New Jersey, boosting her confidence and caregiving skills, transformed her approach, especially handling challenging situations. Now she's thriving in her second career, feeling fully prepared and fulfilled. Work very closely with so many programs across the state, and they're not always successful, right? We're never going to have 100% rate, but even in some of these programs, we're having a 60% rate. The folks they're serving before that were had a 0% rate.
Right.
So I think so often we look at these metrics, and I'm very into metrics and data, but I appreciate you asking me about individual stories, because sometimes it's these individual stories here and there that can help sustain a program.
Yeah. I love that your leadership, and similar to my commissioners, has been about the data driving the decisions, right? So there's still humanity in it. There's still the ability to kind of say, this is where we're seeing some real, fruit bearing. But again, it's always about those individual experiences. But those decisions help, lend to some informed intention, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Commissioner, early career training as a means of closing the skills gap. Is that something that the department is working on?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that internships are early career training,
Yes.
As well. And, we made a big push a couple of years ago. We really big into youth work, maybe because I have two teenagers, and this is my first summer ever. All four people in the household are earning a salary, which I'm very excited about.
Awesome.
A couple of years ago, we took the working papers process through legislation away from individual school districts, and now it's housed in the Department of Labor in one statewide database. I think this is super important. Traditionally, working papers were about making sure you weren't working dangerous jobs, which is crucially important, by the way. Making sure you're getting, that your parents are involved, or the healthcare provider. Now it's all the same, but it's also a workforce development tool for us. It was always in our wage and hour division, so it was more of like an enforcement, investigatory type of tool. Now we're using it as a workforce development tool. We have database of tens of thousands of 16 to 18-year-olds across the state who are working, whether it be summer camps or a fast food place after work or whatever it is. We're making sure that they know about their rights in the work site, that the employers know about what their responsibilities are. Because when all this talk about, young workers don't want to work anymore, they don't have it was all a bunch of baloney, number one. But if you give them a good working experience their first time working, you're going to be much more likely to want to work more and to continue that career path. And I think, so I'm really proud of our work on that front. We're just tip of the iceberg as far as I'm concerned, but we're really making sure that we're educating our employers about working with young workers. We have a whole young youth workers webpage on our website to give them the tools they need to be in the workplace. But these early career training, whether it be apprenticeship, which is still, there's plenty of adults in it, but they're also, it's mostly targeted at 18 plus. And working with our partners across the government as well to make sure that our businesses know how to connect with these young workers. All of our one-stops across the state, all 19 of them, were very closely tied with whether it be the high school guidance counselors or the community colleges folks to make sure they're getting placed as well. Strong public-private partnerships, collaborating with key industry priorities to develop these talent pipelines. And now we have this data of all these young workers in our own, in a digital format. Before, it was just basically we'd get these papers from the school boards that would go in a file somewhere until there was an investigation. So now we're able to proactively work with these young workers and their parents, quite frankly, because we have their information too, these working papers, make sure to help them go into apprenticeship programs, help them find out about internship priorities, internship opportunities across the state. Get 300 employers help us last year pinpointing emerging workforce needs to communicate with our young workers about to help schools close these skill gaps. But I think because of the tightness of the labor market, I think we're seeing employers be more have more trust or take more risk, or what they would consider risk in the prior years about hiring young workers. I think they're seeing that all the hysteria out there about kids not working anymore is not true. Kids are very anxious to work, especially if you're giving them an impactful job.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I think some of that is a bit of fodder, and I'm seeing a level of energy and enthusiasm from even just a lot of our Gen Z cohort that beguiles what I think the assumption is, right? And it's exciting for that opening.
I gotta say, and it also helps when in New Jersey now they're going to make $15.49 an hour, as opposed to even just 5 years ago they were making $8.35 an hour.
That's incredible.
So if you have a choice between making that much money or, I don't know, studying more for the SAT or just hanging out all summer, it's a real big incentive to get young workers out.
And what's amazing is I read recently that the federal minimum wage is still like
$7.25.
That's incredible.
I mean, and it hurts us as a state a little bit because Pennsylvania is at the federal minimum wage of $7.25.
Really?
So it's just not. We as competitive as we are with other states, we would much prefer that Pennsylvania raise their minimum wage as what ours is, or even close to it, to try to close that gap. Because that kind of economic imbalance when you're so close and there's so transient across the borders isn't great. So yeah, it's a shame the minimum wage hasn't been raised I think since early 2000s, Bush administration.
Yeah, you can't imagine how someone can live on that.
No. Yeah, I mean, and it's all crazy to me to think that we've doubled the minimum wage essentially in New Jersey in the past 7 years.
Doubled it, but yet what you said earlier is that businesses are thriving and growing.
Right. Because we're putting more money in the pockets for people to buy things, especially those mom and pops I was talking about earlier.
I think it's also valuable to hear that out loud, right? There's this assumption that one is going to hurt the other when in fact, New Jersey seems to me to be in the strongest complement, and it sounds like we're going to push trend, right? Yeah. Eventually, PA is probably going to have to fall in step because we're going to have something so competitive here that, it's keeping folks. And, to your point, and I think what's been so valuable, even just hearing, your expertise today, Commissioner, but also I think where the priorities and mission of the department has been, you all are always looking ahead. It's something I've appreciated about your leadership, about Governor Murphy and the whole administration, right? What are we setting up for the future, right? After we're not here, 15, 20 years down the line. And I was curious, I think you clearly have a pulse point on where temperature is going to go in New Jersey. Federal, I think we're all trying to, see it changes by the day. But what are you looking at in terms of some of the top workforce challenges, but also the opportunities, right? Where is there some more growth potential in New Jersey over the next 5 to 10 years? And how are you really getting the department and your incredible workforce ready to meet those demands?
Great question. I think that, there's a lot of challenges coming from DC. There's no doubt about it. But I try to see them as opportunities. And I feel blessed, and I tell my staff when we're seeing news of federal cuts and federal firings, and that we work very closely with our federal partners, and we're not getting emails returned because they don't work there anymore after they got riffed or whatever else. And that's scary to a lot of our employees. And our department is mostly federally funded, so it's even more scary. But I think that we're blessed to work in a job where we get to work every day. We're helping people. Yes. And I think that helps us feel like we're doing something about it. And that's a governmental statement, not a political one. But as far as the future of the workforce in New Jersey, I think we're on real good footing. Just like in real estate, location. Right. People want to be in New Jersey because of our great education system, our great services. Employers want to be where the people want to be. That's why they keep following them here. Listen, there's no doubt that what's on the near horizon, we don't know what that is, whether it be tariffs or federal cuts or Medicaid changes. But I think that we're in a good spot because of our location, whether it be our ports being between Philadelphia and New York. We're always going to have that kind of a baseline of employment in New Jersey. But as far as being prepared, I thought about AI before. I think that's a part of it. I'm not one of these folks think AI is going to change everything about what we do all the time.
Yeah.
I think it's important to be ready for it and to be prepared. I think we've been, hiring. Make sure that we're only a few hundred jobs over when we started in this department, but that's keeping up is also very difficult, especially with the huge retirement boom during COVID, after COVID. So I think make sure those pieces are in place. Our own internal technology for the services we provide. We folks were focused on unemployment. We made huge investments in our upgrading our unemployment systems, but also I mentioned the working papers systems online now. All of our public construction payroll systems are online. The more we can do to make our services more easily accessible to those that need them, the better off our folks are going to be that we're serving. Also, we just put out a digital equity grant last week to make sure the folks that we're serving, everyone wants to have a new website or a new app.
Right.
I'm always thinking about the folks who don't even use technology, that need to come in person or whatever else. So we just had we'll put out a digital equity grant. We'll see how that goes. Make sure that folks are working with local communities to make sure that they have the digital wherewithal to take part in some of these programs. But I'm definitely bullish on the New Jersey economy as compared to other states. Certainly, we don't control things at a federal or international level, but I want to make sure that we're resilient. We have training programs that are resilient across the state. We have thousands of private training providers as well that would get certified with us to make sure that they can turn on a dime to provide new trainings for the economy that's needed. But also, I think it's the relationship we've built with employers. Because I said at the start of this, you can't be a worker without an employer. And we can't hire everybody in the government. So we need to make sure that we're incentivizing employers to do the right thing and also be nimble with us along the way. And hopefully, I think COVID did change behavior. So I think even if there is a downturn, I don't think you're going to see the number of layoffs you might expect maybe in the 80s or 90s or early 2000s. I think when the rebound happens, employers don't want to be out there searching for employees being desperate again.
Right.
So I think you'll see some more work on more investment in workers on that front as well.
I'm excited. I think it's important that we inject some optimism. It's really easy to kind of look to, really short-term concepts about this. And I'm excited that you're going to be at that helm, right? As New Jersey, I think, continues to adapt and evolve. And I think that we're ahead. I think that we've got, like you said, tons of different industry that we're shoring up that's coming to the state. And I think that we've got, some talent that wants to stay here and be a part of the change that they're watching.
No doubt. And I think we're a highly educated state. We have a lot of great innovators in New Jersey. So sometimes the shrinking of federal investments can help innovate as well. So who knows what new companies will come out of it.
And, at a time when there's so much change coming out of Washington, it's comforting to see the steady leadership that you've brought, consistent leadership to the State Department of Labor. And this conversation today has helped me to understand really how important your role is and how impactful you and the department have been. So thank you.
I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of our department as well.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Commissioner. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for having me. Go Silk City.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.